Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So, today I am finally back. A lot of things have happened. One thing that's happened, I cut my hair off. Still trying to get used to it, not quite sure if this length is really my friend, but we're getting there. And some things have not happened. Like, I have not left the US yet. So I'm still here, still trying to figure things out. But in the meantime, I have been studying Japanese. So today I figured I would tell you all of the ways that I have studied Japanese. And then at the end I will tell you what I am currently doing, and I'll give you some advice. And I hope this all helps. So for starters, I learned hiragana and katakana from tofugu.com. So hiragana and katakana are definitely necessary to, I think, doing really well in Japanese. So I learned these first as my senior project in high school. And pretty easy. Tofugu.com was really great. I learned it all in one summer because they use mnemonics, which basically is associating a picture with every sound. And that really, really helped me. For example, they taught me you looks like a fish. So every time I see you, I think of a fish now. Or for example, re looks like a guy throwing up. So I always think of wretch when I think of re. And that's really helped me remember these characters really well. So I definitely think that's where you need to start. And then if you have a chance, I highly recommend taking a class. If you can take a class, that is going to be a really great resource for you because you'll learn a lot and you'll have other people in your class. So, for example, I don't live anywhere near anybody who speaks Japanese, really. But I was lucky enough that my academic advisor in college is awesome. She went through so much work trying to find a program that would really help and that I would be able to take Japanese and not some language I didn't want, because I really wanted a language that would be useful for me. And Spanish and French and German, those wouldn't be useful for me in the career that I want. So I ended up taking Japanese classes from Oregon State University. I only took 2. So I was still more in the beginning levels. And I really liked this class. It was all online. We had a textbook. So we had this textbook. It is Japanese the Spoken Language Part 1 by Eleanor Hars Jordan with Mari Noda. This is a really good book because it has English, but it also does the Romaji. So that was really nice. So that book is really helpful, but the one thing that I have against it is that it's so old. Like, old enough that at this time, Russia wasn't even called Russia. It was known as the USSR still. So I definitely take it with a grain of salt when I use it, but it's really helpful for grammar points. And that's what I used it for mostly. And the phrases, like the one I showed you, are ones that I had to memorize, and then I had to memorize them. I also had worksheets and stuff that I had to print out and then scan back into my professor. And then the parts that I memorized from the book, I had to do speaking with one of my classmates for our professor over a Zoom call. And this was fun, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for, because it was a lot of, I memorized this and I spit it back out. And that's okay, especially when you're beginning, because you just don't know a whole lot. But definitely, I'm not one of those people that I just want to memorize a whole bunch of set phrases and not be able to get outside of those set phrases. It was helpful then, but not something that I would find useful now. Something else. I've had this 15-minute Japanese, learn just 12 weeks thing for a while. It's okay. This one a lot of pictures and little things like this. It gives you it in Japanese and English. I don't really recommend that one though, because it didn't really stick with me. It didn't help me a lot, and I obviously didn't learn Japanese that fast either. The next thing I recommend is studying abroad. So I unfortunately thought that my classes from Oregon State would cover all of my language credits, but I was very wrong, because I go to a semester school and Oregon is a quarter school. So I was short some credits and I couldn't graduate. So senior year, all of a sudden I had to pack up and go to Japan over the summer. And I had to take an intensive Japanese language course, and that was the best. I met people from all over the world and got to practice with them. So right now I am probably around N4, but back then I was probably like upper N5. And it was awesome. We did a lot of speaking in Japanese, had some homework. Most of the time it was things like go out and talk to somebody, go order some food. And it was really helpful. I had a lot of fun with that. We also had this textbook, which I really, really like. It's Basic Japanese for Students, Hakase 1. I love this book. It was really awesome. It comes with a CD. At the beginning of every one, it gives you some objectives. But this is kind of what it looks like. It has a CD that you can listen to with. You can fill things in. Gives you your vocab. It's really helpful. I highly recommend this book. Some things that I recommend you to be doing all the time are, I think you should watch things. So for example, I watch anime. Things like anime, Terrace House, the news, those are all really, really good things to watch because it makes you think and you have to remember, and you're using your listening skills, basically. So I definitely think that shows like Terrace House or the news have more practical language, and that's better because you're using things that are used every day. But anime is also good too. Some of the times the Japanese you're learning is specific to anime, like you won't really encounter it outside of that. Like it usually doesn't come up in everyday conversation. But I definitely think it's a good thing to listen to. I also really recommend listening to podcasts. For example, there's this one on Spotify I listen to sometimes called Small Talk in Japanese. It's similar to things like Terrace House or the news, where it's basically just these two girls who are just talking and they're using their everyday language, and then they also post vocabulary lists on their blog. And I really like that because I can go back and double check things, and I can also learn new words. So they're really awesome and I highly recommend them. I also recommend reading the news. So this is a good way to practice your reading because that's another skill that you need. And for example, I read things like Japanese folk tales. There's like little bedtime stories, things like that online that I've found and read before. I also go to NHK's Easy Japanese News. And that news is in hiragana and simple kanji. And it's really fun to read and see what I have learned. So I like that one a lot. That's really nice. Another one that I use is Duolingo. I have been using Duolingo for a long time. And a lot of people say that you shouldn't rely on language learning apps. But this is something that I really like, and I include it in my daily routine. So Tuesday through Friday, if I don't have a day off and I'm just working, I spend 30 minutes on Duolingo every day. And I really like Duolingo because I get to learn new vocab and then it's repeated. So the thing I struggle with in books is that I don't usually get it back again, and then I don't feel like I need to memorize it because it's still in the book. I can just go use it as a resource. but that doesn't help me memorize or learn or be able to actually functionally use something. But Duolingo has been helping me with that. But I definitely think you have to do Duolingo in a certain way. So for example, I read everything out loud, and I say it in English and Japanese. So this helps me to be able to associate words with sounds, and I know what I'm saying at all times. And there's also the spaced repetition method. And that is a method that I really enjoy because things stick in my brain better if I take a break from something for a while. So doing that 30 minutes, it makes me remember the vocabulary I learned yesterday, today, and I get another shot at it. It gives my brain some space to make sure I'm actually remembering it and it's not just going in one ear and right out the other. So that's something that I do a lot right now. Another recommendation I have is texting. I've been doing this a lot recently. So I have a lot of friends from studying abroad, college, that speak Japanese. And because they speak Japanese, I've been using them kind of as practice. So before, they used to text me in hiragana and I could read it, and if they texted me in kanji, I couldn't. So I was always Googling things that they said, and I knew more than I could say, basically. So I could read, but I couldn't reply. So I was constantly Google translating, and then I'd usually reply in English because I was scared. But recently, I have been making myself text them back in Japanese. And it's been going amazingly because I've been able to read more and write back more. Use the translator on the Line app where I'm texting my friends from. And I also put it in Google Translate too, just to make sure that I didn't mess up my particles and I'm confusing something. If you don't have anybody who speaks Japanese that you can talk to, I highly recommend following your favorite Japanese influencers on things like YouTube or Instagram. So I follow a lot of influencers on Instagram, and I try to read their posts all the time. So they often write in Japanese, so I'll try to read that, and then I'll read the comments. And if you get involved in the comments, you can sometimes make some cool friends. That gets me to where I am now. So obviously, as I said earlier, I do 30 minutes of Duolingo every day, except for Monday, weekends, and days that I have off. So, days that I have off, I try to practice kanji. So for example, right now I have the try books that I'm working through. So I have all the way from N5 all the way to N1, and I'm slowly working my way through these. The N5 book is the one I'm on right now. It's the Try N5. I really like this book because it comes in Japanese and it gives you little things where you can write replies, but it also explains things in English as well, which I find very, very helpful. So far, N5 has been really easy for me, but I'm going through it really slowly. And I'm going through it slowly because I'm teaching myself kanji. So I've been going through this book, and I've been taking any kanji that I recognize, basically any words that I know, like mainichi, every day. I knew that word, and I wanted to be able to read it every time I came across it. So what I did is I take that kanji and I go to jisho.org. So jisho.org is a Japanese English dictionary, and you basically type it in English or Japanese, and it'll give you a definition, and it'll even give you the individual kanji and teach you how to write it. So it'll give you the instructions on the character strokes and everything. So when I go to Jisho, I get that, and then I've been taking a whiteboard and practicing it all out. So right here it just has my notes for the video, but I usually go there and practice and practice and practice and practice. But because I only practice every weekend, I usually don't get to finish kanji all the way. So I'm using the spaced repetition method as well. So some of the kanji that I learn, say, on Saturday, I don't touch it again. I'll study it again on Sunday, but if I didn't get it completely figured out, I won't touch it again until next Saturday. So that puts a good week in between where it forces me to actually see if I can remember or not, which has been really helpful. And when I do remember, I've been putting it in this. So I have a kanji paper book, basically. This has kanji paper in it. And I don't use it how most people use them. For example, how I use it is that I will put the kanji that I've learned right here. And then I'll put everything that it means. And then I put the Chinese and the Japanese reading here, because it can be either. And that's how I do it. I find it helpful and I get more information out of it. I also have a handy dandy notebook. This notebook I got when I was in Japan for my study abroad. So it has all my worksheets in it still. And then it has all my notes. So this is basically what my notes look like. It has a lot of spaces in it. My questions. I always try to write in hiragana. And now that I've been learning kanji, they've been going in kanji more often now. I've also been video chatting. So it's been a year now since the other jets from my consulate and I have met. And we were hoping we'd get to meet in person. And we had started video chatting in hopes that we could become better friends before we actually met. But then we still haven't met. So instead, we have been practicing Japanese, and it's been awesome. So every Monday night, we practice for an hour, and it's really great. We usually take turns picking prompts, and then we hold each other accountable, which I think is the biggest thing for why our success is going up, and especially for me, how it's been getting better, because they're all a lot higher in level than I am. So they hold me accountable because they don't let me slip into English. They kind of guide me if I get stuck, and then they kind of push me to get better or give me small critiques if I make mistakes. It's been really, really helpful, and I've been having a lot of fun practicing with them. And then one last thing that I've been doing is that I've figured out that I learn better if I can teach it to somebody. So I have been teaching Japanese to my 5th grade students on Wednesday during recess. So I have some kids who really, really like Japanese and they wanted to learn, and they were so excited when they learned that I could speak some of it. And they wanted to learn, so I said yes. Because when I was their age, I would have loved it if somebody like me was there and could teach them. So I had to do it, and I've learned that I've been remembering everything better since I've been teaching them. They're almost through hiragana, and I am so proud of them. They've done so much work, and they're really, really working hard. They speak to me in between classes. They tell me good morning and see you later in Japanese, and it's been really fun, and I look forward to seeing how far they can go with it. I hope they end up watching this someday and getting some skills from me that will help them keep moving forward. Overall, I think the best way to learn Japanese is to make sure you're hitting all your areas. You have to be practicing listening, reading, speaking, and writing. So, quick recap, how I practice reading is that I read things like stories or the news. How I practice listening is with podcasts, music, TV shows, things like that. How I practice writing, I'm text messaging my friends, or I'm practicing kanji on a whiteboard. And then speaking, find some people to talk to. I've been video chatting with my friends and getting actual practice in. So these are all my tips and tricks to how I've been learning Japanese. Again, I am only probably N4. I don't have the means to actually take the test because I live too far away, but I'm hoping someday I'll be able to. But stay tuned. I'm planning to do some like language checks, basically, so you can kind of see my progress over time. And one of those will probably be coming around the time that I'll hopefully be leaving. If you have any questions or comments for me, please leave them down below. I would love to hear how you're learning Japanese, and if you have any ideas of how I can add something new to my regimen. I would really appreciate it. Thank you. Ja ne.